60 days. So let's begin with the Standard this morning. New twist to Maraga ruling row. So this is a fresh storm that is brewing with regard to the repeat presidential election, but of course, as well as preempting on the full ruling of the Supreme Court that is meant to be given on the 21st of September.
Yes, and well, yes, we have also a few judges mentioned here, but maybe just to hear from Collins, what we should be expecting, or if it's possible to even preempt what we should be expecting from Maraga, or should we just sit still and wait?
Thank you, Michelle and Michael, for having me today. Now, clearly, the storm is not over. We had a hint of such kind of proceedings when the legislator for Nyeri Town, Gunjiri Wambugu, petitioned the courts, presented his petition before the JSC, challenging the leadership of the Chief Justice. But now he withdrew his suit subsequently, but the storm is clearly not over. We have other gentlemen who have presented another petition, just trying to challenge the process and the conduct of the Supreme Court judges.
Right.
Now, in the Constitution, under Article 168, the process of the removal of a Supreme Court judge is clearly set out, and it begins by presenting your petition before the JSC. Now that they've already presented, from my brief reading of the article, they have a number of allegations which they should present before, then we see.
We'll see how it goes. Let's take a look at some of these allegations, because it's, damning petitions linking Justices Philomena Mwilu and Justice Isaac Lenaola to NASA lawyers. So among those claims, let's take a look at the claims on Justice Isaac Lenaola first of all.
If we can move to page 6,
yeah, that's on
so
page
that we can
6
have
of
a
the
look
paper.
at that. There's a detailed report there on page 6 of the Standard, where we have some of those accusations that are put before the DCJ and also Justice Lenaola. And, well, some of those coming up is apparently there was telephone calls during the petition ongoings, and that was between, for instance, there's some between the DCJ and apparently one of the lead counsels for NASA, which is James Orengo.
Right, and also says Justice Isaac Lenaola, also in the company of the Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, met Moses Wetangula and James Orengo, the lead counsel in the petitioner's case, but also that Philomena Mwilu met Senator Amos Wako on the 17th of August for over 2 hours. And there's also details of phone conversations, text messages that were exchanged. Another one here is that Philomena Mwilu is accused of having had several lengthy conversations with Senator Orengo through a phone number registered under the name Margaret Orengo, who is the sister to James Orengo. So quite a lot of damning allegations here. But what impact are these likely to have on the overall ruling, the final verdict of the Supreme Court on the 21st of September?
Which is tomorrow.
Yes, which is one day away.
Yeah, day away. Thursday, sorry. Yes, these are pretty serious allegations, I must say, and they really are not allegations that you can just brush aside and ignore. Before the Supreme Court hearing and of the petition, people like Justice Mwilu, people really knew little or nothing about. And we now see very serious allegations against them. Now, it's up to the petitioners to prove their case, but it's not going to be easy. If you can remember, time back before the elections, the NASA coalition was trying to prove the link between the president and Al Ghurair farm, and they had this theory of how they met in Dubai and how the relationship, business relationship, and which the court threw away. So the evidence that we'll produce will be very critical. But on your question, also the judges are human beings, they're emotional, and they've been under a lot of attack, and they'll also seek to prove their independence. So I'm of the opinion that this kind of things also will have a bearing on the judgment. I'm maybe likely to see a stronger and more specific judgment in terms of prosecution, and because you see some of these officials and politicians are saying they have been waiting for the ruling. So I'm expecting a court ruling that will have very specific details as regards...
And maybe just to get an idea from you, Collins, as a lawyer, the question here being, I mean, they are, just like you've mentioned, human beings, and as they have freedom of association.
Yes.
But what would that mean if they had lengthy interactions with lead counsel for NASA? What does that imply? Because we don't have the details of what their discussion was.
Yes.
We don't know if they're friends, but of course it would leave, it would have been better if they did not. But what does that likely, what picture does it paint?
Especially because they're part of the 4 that validated or upheld the nullification of the election.
It doesn't have a good bearing. I mean, it should not be happening, especially that this is a ruling that has thrown the country into a lot of confusion, a lot of speculation. This is something that is not according to their code of conduct. The Supreme Court judges being the highest court in the land, the judges should conduct themselves in a manner likely to show impartiality and not leaning towards any side. So these are not very simple allegations, I've said. These are very serious allegations. And it's a ground that you can, of course, oversee the impeachment of a Supreme Court judge under gross misconduct.
All right.
Well, let's wait and see how that's going to pan out. But of course, details coming out as we go along, but also as we wait for the full text of the ruling that was given on the 1st of September, which is due latest by, I believe, the 21st
yes,
of this
that is Thursday.